One. Hello, and welcome to the Last Revolution podcast with myself, Nathan Lucius, and the absolutely fantastic Mark Byford, aka Bowler Hat Farmer. Hello, Mark.
Nathan, how are we doing?
We're all right. Recovering from a chest infection, I might sound a little bit funny, but it's better than it was a week ago. Yeah, I'm all right. I had a little bit of blue sky yesterday in Teesside.
Yeah, do you know what? We had a little bit here. Yes, it's not too bad. I've actually got sunshine outside. Out of that window. It's grey out of that window, but it's sunny out that window. I'll say the wind's blowing that way, I reckon.
I don't know. Teesside, we're back to the usual
Grey.
neon grey. That's the best way I can put it. It's a neon grey. I mean, it's like 6 days out of every 7 in Teesside. It's just that muck. So obviously, the last time we did a podcast together, I was in Chipping Norton.
Yeah,
much better. I mean, they do tend to get a hell of a lot more sunshine down there than we do up here, and it's you come back up here, it's just like, oh god. But anyway, that aside, so we just had a cheery chat about a couple of things about the state of the movement. Is that what we're going to go with? We're going to call it the movement.
The movement, yes, I think we should, or lack of the movement.
So there's that. We're going to have a little look into finances and what the stranglehold that we seem to be in, and the connotations of that, the direction that could potentially go in, and then we're going to attempt, hopefully, to lift things up, galvanize the movement again, see if we can actually get it moving, see if we can get some conviction going. It's time, folks. It's time to get. If I dare use a phrase, it's time to get shit done. And there's no one better to do that at the minute, I think, than yourself, Mark. And I'm not trying to be sycophantic or anything like that. It's just nice to see something something's progressing, something's moving, something's actually being done. And again, yes, there are other people. I'm not trying to. Yeah. But you've just said there about Iconic Studios. I won't go into it, but I wasn't aware that was struggling. Are we fair to say that?
Yeah, and I think, and not just them. I think the problem is, Nathan, as with the conversation we've had, lots of people that have been probably in the past quite well funded are now finding that funding's starting to get squeezed. And I don't think that's squeezed because the funders have changed. I think the funders, if you've got someone who's sending you 20 quid a month, for instance, and suddenly things change in their life, or the cost of food goes up, the cost of and I had several people message me about our subscription. So I'm really sorry, Mark, I need to cut it down a bit. I was like, no, that's cool. Go for it. And there's a lot. In a couple of months, I'll put it back up again. But I'm struggling at the minute. We've just had Christmas. We've got the extra heating bills. The food bills through the winter and more because we don't grow any food. So all them reasons start to stack up. And I think that just goes to show, Nathan, just how tight money is now.
Again, I'm going to use the word stranglehold, mate. I mean, I know I've said this twice here already, but obviously for the audience, I'm going to use the example of Cadbury's cream eggs, right? Just in the supermarket the other day, and you glance at things, and you just go, nah, that can't be right. And it's like, it was nearly £4 for a 5-pack of cream eggs, and I just thought, nah. I said to Holly, is that for real, or is that because I'm in the posh bit? And she went, don't know, don't eat them. So I was like, right, okay. So I've come back up here, same thing. Prices are astronomical. So to me, and I know it's a bit of a crap example that I'm using, but what I thought when they jumped up from, I don't know, £1.50 to £2, I thought that was excessive, right? I was begrudging paying that. And now a year later, we're not even out of January and we're selling Easter eggs. I mean, you've got to love that.
Look, Nathan, look at it from the other side. The two biggest ingredients in that is sugar and milk.
Yeah.
The price of both of them to the farmer has come down.
Well, not forgetting the sugar tax as well.
So even with all that, the price has come down. So why has it gone up? And it does seem a lot of it at the moment to me is a lot of the bigger companies taking the liberty while they have the opportunity to just take the mick. And that's where I think a lot of these big concerns are. They've gone, well, inflation's running at 8%. And they go, but our expenses have only gone up 2%. Yeah, but inflation's gone up 8%. You know, so they're just creaming it, as I said in the 3 minutes, they're creaming it in, you know.
Okay, excellent. Right.
Excellent.
That was good. You took me by surprise there. You're going to make me cough. I think you're onto something there because, again, just going into various pubs, restaurants, and cafes, right? Just as an example of this, we've got, obviously, because it's food based. And I've noticed that everywhere has put their prices up in sync, right? I mean, just across the board, their prices have gone up. Even, you know, the cheaper ones. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to get into trouble for product placement and all that stuff. We're not sponsored, so Sodom. But it's not a cheap meal anymore. It's not even a cheap drink anymore. I mean, since when the pints cost £6?
Yep.
I went into a pub the other day. I can't remember where it was, Chadlington or something like that. £7 for a pint. £7. It was a nice pub, but I'm thinking, oh, it's a bit excessive. And so what I think in terms of what you just said there is, people, I think, since 2020, since the fuel bills have gone, you know, astronomical, the house prices are now astronomical. I think it's a case of opportunism. I think they've seen the fact that they can do it because people will pay it. People they'll keep coming in and they'll keep paying the prices, and then they put the prices up, and then people, of course, they'll look at the prices and go, oh, that's a bit steep, but I'm embarrassed, right? So through embarrassment, they've still got you because you still got to pay for your meal, you still got to pay for a drink, and you've got to look cool with it. You got to look cool, calm, and collected as if it's nothing, but it is something. It is astronomical now, and now they've got us in a vice, you know.
Yeah, and I do think, you know, if you're in a position like me, you know, you're running a channel and you're relying on a lot of donations, then you only need things to change a little bit in the system.
Yeah.
And that dries up really quickly. And people will unsubscribe financially and unsubscribe from you so they don't have to feel guilty on the fact that they're, oh, I don't want to watch you and not pay you something for your time, you know. So, and where we're going with the Food Finders Hub and the Food for Thought radio stations, we can't do it without funding. And you know, we've come as kind of got as far as we can, and don't get me wrong, people have been so freaking generous, it's untrue. But the reality is, Nathan, everything like Paul and I were talking last night about just a microphone, set of earphones, and a mic stand, for instance.
Yeah.
And you're looking at neon £200.
At least, I mean, I've looked at the high,
exactly.
well, even mid-range now for microphones and cameras. £500, mate, easy. Yeah. 500. Well, I mean, look at the state of this. Just as an off, right? I've got an Alienware laptop. I got it for relatively cheap, actually. I don't know how the hell I managed to do that, but the camera's crap. So I'm going to need, if I'm going to keep doing this podcast, I need to now upgrade the camera.
Yeah.
Which is if I really want a good quality camera, 200, 300 quid for.
Oh yeah, no, don't disbelieve it.
And it's gone, isn't it? And so at the minute, I can't afford that.
No, and I think that just goes to, and I think this is where the unrealism of the kind of the movement, I think it is at this point. And I'll tell you for why. If we go back to 2020, right? Because let's take that as the starting point. Forget who was on the journey before that.
Yeah.
2020, the point what everybody knows.
It was a catalyst, wasn't it? It was a massive catalyst.
You know, and you can take people like Richard Phobes, for instance, that after that built up a big platform, been demonetized.
Yeah.
Lots of other people we could name which have built big platforms, been demonetized, because they know the way to stop them doing it is to demonetize them. And it's like, well, how do you demonetize? You know, for us, ours is all sitting inside a CIC, inside a community interest company. So for us, when you're relying on donations, and we set ours up from day one that we only wanted £1 a month off people to keep it really low. So
which I think is very reasonable, to be fair, right?
Yeah. You know, not being fun, and I'm not, you know, no disrespect to anybody. You know, I hope that everyone's got £1 in their pocket, you know. But, you know, if I say to you, and here's a classic example. You talk about how things have gone up. I went, Gloria and I were in Stansted the other night doing a talk. And I said, well, we need to just pop in Co-op and get some tea bags.
Right.
Right. And went into Co-op, grabbed a box of 160 tea bags, and they were £8. And it was like, that's 5p each. A tea bag used to be a penny. And it's like, how do we get to 5? Now, I look at it. If I come around your house and, you say, oh, Mark, come and have a cup of tea with me. By the time you put the milk, the sugar, the fucking boil the kettle and put the tea bag in, it's £1, So I say to people, look, this is like me rocking up once a month and having a cup of tea with you. But as a response for you doing that for me, I'll do you a video every day, and that money is allowing us not only to do the videos, put the radio station together. Yeah. We know if we get that radio station right, Nathan, which I know with the people like you and Chris and Paul and all the people who are in the background of this will not fail, right?
I think it's an absolutely fantastic drive forward. I think it's a good project. I mean, so it needs as much support as it can, but just without interrupting.
What I was going to say is, if you take that as a thing, and you start looking at microphones, £500, like we're just saying, and you start looking at some of the software we've got, getting some of the licenses, and you think, fucking hell, we thought we were going to be able to do this for next and suddenly with thousands and thousands of pounds being spent. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, people are being generous, and I had £100 for checks turn up today from a husband and a wife, £50 each. But as a result of that, people being generous and things going up, we're worse off than we were. And and I'm don't want to sound ungrateful and disrespectful. I'm just being honest, because if you take in the movement as a whole, I bet 95% of people would like to give it lots of that about, we need to change this, and this. But then when you put an opportunity in front of them to change that, they won't even put in £1 to help you support that. And that's real sad, because and I'm not just talking from my side here with the CIC, all the people which are out there, whether that's, I don't know, Jeff Buys Cars, Richard Vobes, Iconic, whoever it is, all of these people have put their head above the parapet, put their neck on the line, and every one of them is getting fucked over by the system and not supported by the public. And it's like, then you get to the point you go, why am I bothering? I might as well go and get a job.
But then
that's where the system needs
stops,
us,
doesn't it? It's finished.
It's done.
And I think, like yourself, mate, I'm not prepared to do that. I don't do this because I want to be a podcaster. I mean, it was the last thing in my mind. I was afraid of cameras and microphones. I hate my own voice and all of that, right? So call it poor self-image or whatever you want to call it. I didn't want to do this, but now I've got a conviction to do it, just like yourself. There's a problem in the world, and I probably sound like a broken record to some people who've listened into Chris's podcasts, but if there's a problem that's affecting you personally, then it's your problem, right? There's no other way to look at it. If a problem is affecting you, it's your problem. There is a problem now in the world that's affecting all of us. And it's financial, it's political, it's media based, it's mind control based, it's social engineering based, it's geoengineering, whatever you want to do and call it. We are under attack from multiple avenues, multiple directions, which means that each and every one of us now has a problem. And
I agree.
So sorry to prattle on, but
no, you're right.
If we ignore the problem, so this is where ignorance comes in. If we ignore the problem, it gets bigger, it gets worse. It then gathers momentum, and then we are facing a mountain's worth of problems to climb. I'm not happy with that. So we were talking earlier about, in 2020, there was a momentum gathering, right? So people were putting Stand in the Park together. They were putting rallies together. Myself and a few others up here. We've got some fantastic groups up here in Newcastle, Billingham. We started putting talks on. We started doing seminars. We started, things like that. And people would turn up because they could see the problem. It was affecting them personally. Even the finances, I would say, were rolling in easier. So people would happily donate to a talk. They would happily put in towards, groups coming together and, if you want to keep it going, please put a little bit of a donation in so we can get speakers to come and see us. And people like yourself, people like Mark Devlin and John Hamer and things like that. We got those speakers in, many, many more, and people loved it. And then towards 2022, when the threat died down, or at least on the surface level, that stopped. And so now we're dribbling through. We've still got the interest. People are still watching podcasts. I suspect not as many as were, because Mate, do they think the threat's gone? I mean, to me, the threat's really ramped up. I mean,
I agree. I mean, what I will say, Nathan, is if you, like you say, 2020, I think a lot of people that were on that journey then are burnt out.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it. And they probably need another 2020 scenario to relight the fire. And what I think the difference is this time, Nathan, should that happen, I believe that there is a lot more people awake now. And those who came out last time, and 40, 50 people in the parks all over the country, I think that would now be hundreds of people if that happened again. But those people at this point are going, I don't think they think it's over. They know it's been ramped up.
Yeah.
But that immediate threat isn't there because, there is food on the supermarket shelves. I haven't got to wear a mask. I can go where I want. I can get on a train, travel the country at this point.
Yeah.
But what that might look like in 6 months' time, a year's time, who knows? And I think as those goalposts change, that will be the thing that wakes people up. That's going to be the catalyst again, I think.
I mean, are we suggesting that that's a good? I mean, again, what is it? The social engineers say never let a good crisis go to waste. I mean,
Absolutely.
effectively, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a guy I listen to. He's ex-CIA. He used to work for the CIA, and then he got some health problems with his brain. His name's Chase Hughes. And he's a brilliant podcast. He's very professional, and he tells you how the psychology works, how the social engineering works. He's telling you everything. It's brilliant. And I watched the videos of his last night that he basically said you can predict the future based on certain events that they've prepped you for. Basically, he said one of the things that he has. I'm going to say predicted, but he said it's not a prediction. It's basically pattern recognition, things like that. There's going to be another scenario where people are going to be isolated.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a pandemic or anything like that, but his suspicion is looking at the patterns, looking at the
it's going to be
agendas.
A war.
Yeah.
It's going to be a war. And, they keep telling us, that we are in this position that we're going to have a nuclear war, And you can believe or don't believe about nuclear weapons. I personally don't think they're real. I've done loads of research and don't think it's real. What I will say is they've got some massive bombs. But if they were to say drop a big bomb on, let's say, any city, whether that be England or Europe, whatever, and blame it on somebody else, for instance, my opinion would be that you would be told for the next year to stay indoors,
for your own
don't go out, for your own safety, stay indoors because of radiation, and I think that's probably the way this will play out. I don't think the problem will be no more real than it was last time, Nathan.
So effectively, it's a psyop, isn't it? We're talking about psychological operations. So problem, reaction, solution. The Hegelian dialectic. They're going to create an event. It's going to be organised, and then there's going to be an outcome to that. There's going to be consequences.
Let's face it. If you were to ramp that situation up, right, and you said, and you took out the internet at the same time, right?
Ouch.
If you took out the internet at the same time, and you said, "Oh my God, this has happened in London. Everyone's on lockdown. Nobody can travel." You could tell the people in London it happened in Manchester.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter where you were. You could lie to everybody about it because they'd have no way. If you took out the comms, they've got no way of actually knowing what the truth might look like. And that's one of the challenges we've now got. Everyone relies on social media for the news, and I'm not saying the BBC was any better, don't get me wrong. But, everyone's now reliant on that now time, what's going on, bang, 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 and... I've got a friend in that town. I'll find out what's going on. I've got, I'll just check on Facebook what's happening, or TikTok or X, whatever it might be. So we're in that position now where we don't even know what reality looks like.
Which is what you found when you were on tour. Again, to reiterate what we said on the last one, is that when you travel the country, you found that it was very different to what you'd been told it was on the news.
100%.
The media, massively different.
Yeah, we kind of left left home thinking. Now I know that we come from a very Christian, very white town.
Yeah.
You know, so for me traveling the country, I was expecting, from what I'd been told on the media, just like everywhere you go, there is just everywhere is thousands of Muslim immigrants. Wouldn't see anybody.
Really?
And I'm not saying they're not there, and I'm not saying that they're not in the cities and they're not being kept away from everyone. I'm not saying none of that. That I'm sure is the case, but we didn't see it. So if we didn't see it traveling the country, I could argue the fact, well, it ain't there because I didn't see it. And it's not like, Nathan, it's not like we didn't travel the country. We did 12,000 miles, you know. So,
just a bit then.
You know, we did Land's End to John O'Groats, and we went all through like this. You know, there's a couple of places we went and we see different people, but not, you know, I bet, and Gloria will tell you this, you know, I would say that 99.9% of the people who turned up at our talks were white English.
So that's another curious thing. So okay, can I digress a little bit here? Just to balance this out.
I know what you're going to say because I've had the conversation.
Probably. Right. First of all, I mean, I do see it. I do see the immigration. It's in some places that I've travelled to, but again, they're major transport hubs. So places like Leeds and Birmingham. So I travel on a coach. I find it easier and cheaper that way. But so I do see it in the places that I travel through. But one thing I'd like to remind people of is that yes, there is an agenda here. And there is. I mean, if you take the Kalergi plan, for example, there's a deliberate agenda there. But one thing I'd like to remind people is that they're still human. We're all human, right? And so there might be immigrants, they might have, you know, different cultures, and they might be coming in. Okay, that's fine, but they are being played, they are being used and manipulated just as much as the rest of us are. We're still all human, right? But that, so I just wanted to put that out there so that we don't get. I mean, you can't get accused of it anyway, because I mean, Gloria, for example, which is, you've got an interesting anecdote for that.
Yeah, well, you know, I've been called racist loads of times and far right. You know,
yeah,
Gloria's Nigerian. You know what? Now, interestingly, Nathan, we had a conversation the other evening. We were talking about this situation of everyone coming to the UK, and we know that's part of the agenda to break the country.
Yeah,
right.
Which it is. Yeah,
right, and we understand that. Now, everyone's complaining because all the people who are coming here are male, fighting age Muslims. Okay, and they're predominantly coming from Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Iran,
everywhere the places that we politically attacked
everywhere what was originally called Babylon, right? That's where they're coming from. Now, bear this in mind. We're all complaining about that.
Yeah.
They've got the same issue the other end. They're being depopulated. While we're being populated one way, they're being depopulated the other way. So they're now, if you want to create pandemonium in a country and get the population to drop, just send all the men off to war. So if they are, whether they're coming here for war or not, they're coming here. So they're leaving their country. All their women and children are getting left behind. They've got no protection. And then now I would say it's a fair understanding that those people are being paid to come here.
I suspect you're right. I do see it's a deliberate drive or agenda or whatever you want to identify it as. And again, I'm not saying all immigrants. I've got to put the caveat in there because we're not talking about all immigrants.
No, not at all.
There's certainly a pattern here, which is I think is very worrying in terms of, and it does correspond to what you're saying there. There's a correlation, you know.
So we've got this. They've got the same issue going on as what we have, slightly different. And Nathan, I've seen this all around the world. Every time there's something going on in England, it's going on in Australia and America. It's delivered slightly differently, but the playbook's exactly the same. The outcome will always be the same. It will just be played out differently.
Yeah.
And because they know how to play these things out. They try it in that country, it doesn't work. Try it over there, it doesn't work. Try it there. Oh, it worked there.
Yeah. And so what did they do different, right?
Yeah. You know, they've got 20 scenarios for this to play out because they've played this out on mind games for hundreds of years. And that's where, you know, so I think for people need to understand with the immigration side, they've got the same issues going on. You know, obviously Gloria's come from Nigeria. Loads of people that, you know, she talks to back home, they all want to come here.
Can I answer that as well?
Here's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Gloria's always like, I don't think you should come here because this, and this. They won't accept it no matter what she says because she's here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right for you. You're there. You're
Yeah.
just trying to tell me that so I don't come. No, I'm trying to tell you that to save your ass. You know, when you look at what they have to go through, if you take, especially, I can talk about some experience of Nigerians. They're selling everything they own, everything, and probably everything half of the rest of the family what stays there owns, cars, land, houses, whatever, to get the money to come to the UK on the belief that when they get here, it's all going to be rosy. And then they get here and they have to deal with the same bullshit we have to deal with times 10 because they can't get ahead.
Yeah.
And Nathan, I always use this as an example, right? Whether we've got the best families in the world or not, right? Or whether we've got the best finances in the world or not, we as British people still have the ability as British people, right? Without having to deal with bullshit of paperwork, we've got the ability to go and get a job, earn some money, go in a charity shop, speak to someone, talk to your neighbours, anything that I'm just setting up home. Have you got this? And eventually you get all your stuff. They don't have that benefit, so they've got to buy everything. So when they come here, they're cashing in everything on a whim of coming to the UK, on the whim that it's going to be good for them. And they have absolutely no chance at all of that coming good. This is the reality of it.
You might just add into this as well, especially if they're doing it legally.
And that's the problem.
Through the books, it's even harder for them, as you've found out personally. You know,
as we know, by the time if you put an application in to stay in the country with your NHS bond, your solicitors' payments, and everything else, you're looking at nearly $7,000.
Yeah.
But if you was to rock up on a little dinghy, maybe that might cost you minus $7,000.
which the irony, I mean, for anybody who's paying attention, I mean, the irony of that should just be absolutely astounding. Can I add to this as well? So, like I told you, I used to go to the Jehovah's Witness halls. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I've never been one, but I was invited to go. I've got friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses, and I went along to just to attend their hall, or it's their version of a church. But then 2020 hit, and it was closed down. So I stopped going at that point because, well, you couldn't go. It was all online. I didn't like the online bit. But then, so my friends have told me that since it's been reopened and it can go back into the hall, it's now 70% like Nigerian. There's so many Nigerians have come across. And again, this is not being racist. This is just pointing out it's to add to what you're saying there. And the way when he said it to me, he said, look, he said, the horror stories that they're telling where they've come from. We think we've got it bad in this country, and again, we've got financial strangleholds and tyranny and administration and all of that. But at least we're not getting hacked up for bushmeat. At least and it's really, really severe over there. So from that perspective, can we really say that we blame people for wanting to get out of that environment?
No, and I'll tell you the other side. And I speak here from experience of now. Me and Gloria have been living together for 2 years. When you look at what they go through to get here, and you ask yourself why, you've only got to go in and look at the psychology, what's been used to get them to believe in the fact that if they come here, they can do well. Gloria, by her own admission, would say, if we talk about electronics, she's like, oh, I know, when I was growing up, if you could get a Philips, anything from Philips, because it was made in the UK, it was the best you could get. So they were led to believe this great country because they were ruled by so-called great country. So their belief is, well, white man comes here and white man, gets industry going and runs the hospitals. And they must be fucking clever. Not the fact that, no, you're being raped and pillaged without you realising what's going on. And I think, now for me, as someone who had a very different mindset pre-meeting Gloria, because, I can only say this from experience of television, because I've never been to Africa. I grew up in a country where I believed that practically everybody in Africa, nobody had any shoes, nobody had any food. Yeah. That's what we were led to believe.
Through adverts and all of those campaigns.
Fundraising events where they were just raping more money out of our country, and that money never got there.
No, went straight to the banks to pay off interest.
There you go. You sort of think to yourself, hang on, we've all been duped, everybody. And it doesn't matter what country, whether that's, the Africans, what came here, you know, let's look at it. It was Indians, then the Pakistanis, then the Africans. Now it's the Asians. It's just, nothing's changing. It's the same book being played out in a different way. And unfortunately, the British are being mugged off at the minute on the understanding that this Muslim invasion, they're coming here for a reason, whatever that reason is, but they're being paid to do that, and they're being paid to leave their wives and kids, right? And someone's probably paying their wives and kids while they're away. That's probably going on as well, right?
Well, I'm going to add to that. So what crossed my mind is, so the countries that you mentioned earlier, Syria, Iraq, Iran,
Afghanistan,
yeah, all of these places, Afghanistan especially, right? These are the places that the West has attacked en masse for the last 20 or 30 years, right? They have absolutely hammered them. Yep. So thinking as a let's say skeptical, conspiracy minded person that likes to look for patterns and
not that you are, but yeah,
it's like, right, okay, what better way then to give those people retribution against the people that attacked them than to bring them in as a subversive force to be used against said people.
Yeah.
But we can't then forget the people who are pulling the strings and the ones orchestrating it are the ones who drop the bombs. The people never dropped we didn't attack them. I didn't attack them. You didn't attack them. I've got no problem with people in other countries. So it's the governments behind that are pulling the strings. It's the investment corporations. It's all of that stuff and yet, ironically, those are the ones that I suspect, and again, I've got to say suspect because I can't prove it, they are now saying, well, why don't you come over and you could potentially have a little bit of revenge. You can get paid for it. We'll take care of your wife and kids because we know, we've put you through hell and we've destroyed your country and we've destroyed you. We'll take care of that if you do this for us and you can get retribution. But it's the same people that are responsible for causing it in the first place that are now enticement.
Absolutely.
I suspect. I'm going to put that
definitely a possibility.
Yeah. Well, again, is that just me being paranoid and conspiratorial? I don't know. Maybe it is, but if the dots join together, I suspect there's a little bit of a pattern going on. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. The problem is I don't think it is conspiratorial, because I think the challenge is, as we're all starting to realise, conspiracies are things are normally made up in someone's head.
Yeah.
But the problem is with the conspiracies since 2020, every one of them has come true, and we've all seen it right. Just stacking up one on top of the heap, and so we've now ended up with a very fine line, and this comes back to what we're saying. So the money inside the UK, and not just the UK, America's got the same issue because of all the bullshit what's gone on there, and we're seeing it all over Europe. The money's been drained out of the system, left, right, and centre. We've got all this money going off to help all these third world countries that aren't struggling anyway. And because the people who live there aren't going to benefit from that money going to them anyway. This money's just been took out of the system. We know that. They're seeing this in Minneapolis at the minute, aren't they? With this, what's going on out in the States at the minute. It's like $1 trillion worth of fraud in one state. It's like, how do you... And they wonder why they're 100 trillion in debt. And you go, well, it's no wonder at it, really, is there? Whatever it is, 30 trillion.
Where's it all going? Where is it all going? I mean,
that was all flowing out to Somalia. That was all flowing out to Somalia. Now, I'm no expert, but if Somalia is as poor as they say it is, then if they've had £1 trillion out of one state in America, right, the chances are they've had more than that. And it still hasn't sorted the problems out. And if someone's had £1 trillion, now that says to me it hasn't got to the people on the ground.
Just a bit. So again, where's it going? I'm gonna suggest that it's going straight to the banks. It's another.
I agree.
It's a scam, isn't it? If we look at it from that perspective,
it's all a Ponzi scheme. And the problem we've got is that if we continue down the road we are, we know the West cannot survive. What have we realistically got? Another 18 months, 2 years, possibly 3. By 2030, it's going to be game over if things don't change.
Which is why we're doing this. Which it's to galvanise. It's to get a little bit of movement or
100%
back into it. So because I'm of the opinion, mate, that doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. It's not a guarantee.
No.
And in fact, it's one of the weaknesses the social engineers have, the controllers, whatever you want to refer to them as, is hubris. They think it's game over, and unfortunately, unless there's a bit of conviction applied, it probably is. But I'm not going to stand down. I've seen other people stand down, and frankly, where people are saying, oh well, we're going to leave the country and we're going to get out and where are you going to go? Well, this is it. This is a global operation. It's going to hit everyone everywhere because it's being rolled out. It's a global agenda, right? So you can't escape this.
Running away is no good.
You can't.
You've got to stand.
You can't even run into the woods, mate. Because I mean, take the UK for example, and it's beautiful, right? So we did a whole podcast about it is absolutely stunning, and it's being ruined daily, just with deforestation and urbanization, roads and railways and all of that. Oh, just the infrastructure is killing this country just on that alone.
Yeah.
Where they got the people who think they're going to jump, and again, this is not an attack. It's a realization that I came to a couple of years ago, because a lot of people said they're going to get the camper vans, they're going to get weaponry, and they're going to stock up on food and stuff, and then they're going into the countryside. There's not going to be much countryside left by the time this is finished. Where are they going to go? What do you think? You think that a heat-seeking drone can't spot that?
And that's the problem. The technology's moved forward. If you take where we were, I don't know, let's say 50 years ago, you could have done that. The last war,
50 years ago, you could have.
During the last war, you could have took yourself off in a car, load of food, tent, gone off and disappeared somewhere, and they'd have probably never found you unless you really wanted them to, right? That isn't the case anymore. And I can't, and people say to me about digital ID, and there's they're going to bring out this digital ID. If you're that concerned about digital ID, you don't realise this game is already lost. Because with the best will in the world, you get pulled over on the side of the road, you don't have a driving license, you're going to get in trouble anyway. Yeah. If you want a passport, you need the birth certificate. If you want to go on holiday, you need the passport.
Right.
All these things are stacked up. You've got a fucking digital ID, whether you want it or not. Yeah. And I don't care what anybody says. If you've got internet banking, you've got an app on your phone, anything at all, you've already got. Unless you are a freaking hermit, you've already got it. And it makes no difference to your sodding life. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it. And I'm not saying that I don't think there'll be implications to that digital ID, especially if we get CBDCs as well.
Yeah.
If we get digital currency and the digital ID, we are knackered, right?
Well, can we say it for what it is then?
Yeah.
It's digital enslavement.
Absolutely.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be a slave. You don't want to be a slave. I suspect most people out there don't want to be enslaved. All right. So do something, right? Get a little bit of conviction and start doing stuff. Start getting involved. If you don't know what to do, then back somebody else to do it. Support them. This is where it comes into it.
Nathan, one of the biggest things when we travelled the country, one of the biggest things that farmers are concerned about is lack of abattoirs. And if we just use that one thing, right? And in America now, the situation of them closing down abattoirs has got so bad that 85% of all of their meat goes through 30 abattoirs.
Well, we were discussing this the other day. So again, for the audience, because this blew my mind when you told me this.
Now, if, for instance, we want to produce more meat in the UK, which I think we should, right? Because I don't have any intention of being a vegan. I definitely don't have any intention of eating maggots or maggot burgers, right? That's not going to happen. Or synthetic lab-grown meat ain't going to happen, right? I want meat. Now, for that to happen, we need more abattoirs. The problem is it costs millions to set up an abattoir, right? Yeah. So how are you going to do it? Well, so we have two choices. We could either do small mobile abattoirs that do look after 20 farms, let's say, and we could set them up, right? And that's what we've been looking at. That's one of the things, just one of the things we've been looking at as the CIC. But then the other day, I had a message from a girl, and she said, Mark, I don't know if you know about this, but all the county councils across the country have got the opportunity to draw down on funding to set up abattoirs. And I was like, really? She said, yeah.
It's counterproductive from what we've been told, though, isn't it? They're talking about cutting down on beef and things like that. So
is it just lip service? I don't know. Because it could be, we're going to apply for this money, we'll get this money drawn down, but by 2030, by the time we come to build these places, no one will realise what we've actually built is a gas chamber. I don't know, whatever it might be, right?
Wow,
Right?
I mean, that's a dark place to take it, but equally,
right.
you might be right. I mean, I don't know, and it's certainly worth considering, isn't it? So that being said,
now, so the county I wrote off to, I think it's Wiltshire, Hampshire, one of those, whichever one's the county council in that.
Yeah.
Wrote off to them the other day in support because they've applied for funding and they were looking for people to give them supporting letters to say it's a great idea. So one of the things which we do now as the CIC is we've set up a bank of people called keyboard warriors. And the keyboard warriors are just people who want to do exactly that. Sit on a keyboard, be the warrior, don't have to go out the house, don't have to do anything. And, we got half a dozen of them signed up in the first couple of days. I think we now got 10. And I said, okay, so the first trial for them being on there was, guys, look, we've had this request. Could you do a letter as if it's coming from a member of the general public in that area? Outlining your support for that because you want to support locally produced meat and buying it from a local butcher's, but the butchers can't buy it, blah, blah, blah. So we agreed on a letter. Everybody had a kind of a basic template. Everyone sent it out. I sent one from the Food Finders Hub saying, look, we represent thousands of farmers. We travelled the country. One of the things we came to realise was there's a massive demand for abattoirs because farmers are now finding that it's so far to travel to go to an abattoir. It's now a 2-hour drive. The animals are now so poor by the time they get there, the stress on them is too much and we don't want to be doing that. It'd be great to see more local abattoirs. And I had a lovely message back from this guy at the council saying exactly that. Thanks very much for supporting what we're trying to achieve, blah, blah, blah. We've had several other people contact us.
Ah, okay.
Right.
Good.
Now, that's the key bit. So from their side, if we had a team of 50, 100 people that were keyboard warriors, imagine the difference we could then make.
Right.
And so I use an example like that, during 2025, when Arla decided that they were going to trial Bovair, or they announced
just a bit, yeah. I mean,
they announced they were going to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody kicked back on social media and they had to back down real quick. Now, I'm not saying they stopped it because they're still building the plant up in Scotland to produce it, right?
In other words, this is what they do. They delay it and they bring it back under the rug, right?
Called something different, right? But what they did do was they listened to the public at the time, right?
Yeah.
And they had to back away because the public demand was so high. Now, imagine if we'd got a team of 50, 100 people that in that situation just stirred the pot up with the public to get the public to react, or wrote to the local MPs or the councils or whoever's involved in all this nonsense, going right to Arla, Cadbury's, whoever it needs to be, it needs writing to tell them they need to change things. That then puts pressure on these people that they've never had before, because all of them have got away with far too much for far too long. So, and now what we are starting to see, Nathan, is, and we've certainly seen this since we started travelling last year, people are waking up and people are starting to join forces.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is the bit where us for the CIC, and if people want to get on the journey with us, we've got 900 people that have offered to volunteer. Now, for us, we haven't got round to all of them yet. We're getting more and more people on board and we're getting more and more people doing stuff. But if we could get 900 people, if we really pushed that, could we get 9,000? If we got 9,000 people kicking up at the supermarkets on a daily basis, you got 9,000 people going into a supermarket and saying, I'm really sorry, but I don't want halal meat. I don't want your processed meat. I don't want your maggot burgers. And you've got enough people out on a daily basis, that would get back to the management, who would take it back to head office, who would deal with it.
Right.
Because they wouldn't dare. They're far too scared of us. We know that. The public are scary people if they go in en masse. They get away with this bullshit because we don't. We're always backing away. We go, I don't really think I should go in a supermarket and tip milk on the floor. Well, no, you shouldn't. And you shouldn't
because it's poor me syndrome, is it? So, sorry, not even poor me. It's little me syndrome, right? It's I can't, and rightfully so. I mean, it's understandable that people wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have the confidence to go and do that on my own. You'd get arrested, you'd get barred out of the supermarkets and things like that. But one of the things that I've prattled on about for the last 5 years is, put aside your petty differences, realize what the priorities are here. We can argue about the other stuff at another point. It's not, put away your psyops and your personal belief systems and your religion. All right, put all that aside. Don't care about that. We've got a bigger problem. If we unified as a people, and all of the groups came together like we did in the beginning, kind of, and before we tore ourselves apart. If we come together and like as a unified front and say to the government, we're not doing it. Yep. You say to the corporations, you're feeding us crap. You're producing all this material.
Either change it or no one's going to come through that door.
Right, exactly. Nobody, and they love their money because money equals control. They don't get the money, they don't get the control, and people have the power. You and I and the people that they're contacting you and the people that we're networked with, we have the power if we stand together to stop it, absolutely stop it, because we could bankrupt the companies, we could put the government out. We have that power.
Absolutely,
we don't have it unless we realize it and actually use a bit of conviction to do that. And this initiative that you've got going on is brilliant. Again, it's a drive. It's something positive. It's something that we can actually do. It doesn't cost any money, or at least what is it, £1 a month for a donation to help support the cause. That's not difficult. That's not much to ask. No. And all we're asking for is numbers, right? That's it.
Thing is, Nathan, and we went the other evening down to Stansted Abbott's down in Stansted Airport, and Gloria and I did, and we visited there originally first week of March last year, so sort of 10 months apart, let's say. That was one of our very first speeches on the tour, so we were looking at, oh my God, isn't it bad? Isn't it terrible? Isn't this going on? And no farmers, no food, rah, rah, rah. And then I went back this time and was saying, well, actually, while we were on the tour, we saw all these great things. We met this farmer and that farmer. This one's doing that, that one's doing that. And suddenly you bring a bit of hope to the table. And you bring a bit of joy to the table.
Yes.
And you can go, right, Food Finders Hub has now got over 1,000 farms and things registered on there. And that's nowhere near the amount we need, but it's heading the right direction.
No, but mate, it's one hell of a start. I mean, that's a really good boost. So anyway, good.
So with the idea of the Food Finders Hub is to set up a database effectively where farmers farmers, growers, producers, butchers, bakers, whoever can advertise and the public can find them.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. And this is what I try and get through to people. What we're now doing with the keyboard warriors, what we're now doing, that thing the other day with the abattoirs, now we've got a template for that. We can do that if every county we know what applies for it, right?
Yeah.
We've got more and more people coming to the table saying, right, Mark, what do you want us to do?
Yes.
Right. Can you tell me what your nearest, village shop is, what your nearest greengrocers, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, farmers market, whatever. Let's get them on the website. As all that comes together and more people start to realise, I actually could do my shopping and not have to go to the supermarket. And do I care if I spend an extra £5 a month? No, not really. I'm supporting the cause in effect.
Well, we are anyway. It's just got the wrong people at the minute. The prices have gone sky high anyway.
There you go.
Why not redirect it to something that can make a difference?
Yeah. Now, if we take the next section, and the next section being the radio station, because we've built up social media, between social media and our network of on our mailing list, we've got nearly 100,000 people, right?
I mean, that's brilliant.
It's a start. Now, I understand people out there have got channels much, much bigger than I have, and mailing lists much, much bigger. Yeah. But now, Nathan, what we need to do is bring those people together. Right. That's where the radio station comes in. So the idea with the radio station is we're achieving two things. One, if people want to join in on the radio stations and actually take part on the chats, they're going to have to give us their email address so we can keep in touch with them by mail. Right. So one, we start to build a proper database of people all over the country that can be advised, questioned, challenged, whatever that might need to look like. We also then end up with people all over the country listening to the truth. Because one of the problems with social media, I can put out a video that is cutting to the core of what bullshit's going on, but it gets banned.
Yeah, which is the other problem that we've got, which is hence why the radio station is necessary.
Absolutely. You know, people say to me, "Oh, you must be able to get your message out. You've got 40,000 odd, plus followers just on Facebook." And I go, "Yeah, but it won't let me post anything." Right. Or if I do, no, I'll get about 3 people like it, and it's like because it's been held back.
It's been shadow banned effectively.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I know people who get shadow banned, and they're not, again, not to be horrible, but they're not big names, they're not public figures, they're just people who know how to get the message across, right? And even they're getting shadow banned. It's like, well, they'll come to me and say, well, I'm a nobody. Why my message is being banned? Well, it's because you've been effective, that's why.
Exactly. And as everyone said to me a couple of weeks ago when my Facebook got attacked, and got hacked, and people said to me, "Oh, you're over the target mark when you get attacked."
True.
And that's exactly right. So we've got the food side sorted out. And with what we're doing with the Food Finders Hub, public fascia side is we've set up a database and farmers can advertise on there, and that's what the public see. Yeah. That's about 10% of what we're actually doing. So in the background, like things like this writing out to the councils and different things, working with other associations, working with different farmers that have got projects going on, working with different volunteer organisations, and especially land organisations. I'll just chuck one in here, which is
please do.
A slightly funny thing. What I got on a call the other night. I've got a volunteer who lives in London, and he's a park ranger. And he rang me the other day and he said, "Mark," he said, "I've got something for you." He said, "Strange one." He said, "Make of it what you may." He said, "But the last time this instruction was given to park rangers," he said, "was in 1939.
Well, that's raised a red flag straight away just because of the date. I mean, well, okay.
What they've done is now asked every park ranger across London to start looking at growing food in the parks. Now, that says to me, if we haven't done that since 1939, and we, people like me would argue, well, we have our God-given right to use our public spaces to grow food, and they go, oh, no, you don't. Well, now they're doing it. That says to me they think something's coming.
They're prepping.
They're prepping.
Effectively, they are prepping, but they're prepping at the behest of the agencies that.
Right now. So, and this comes back to what I was saying. So, if you've got the system is starting to prep, abattoirs are starting to go back in. All the things what we've been told can't happen, won't happen, suddenly it's been slightly dropped back on the fucking plate for a reason. And that says to me that challenge, as I've always said 2026 is going to be the year when the food system changes, right?
Yeah.
It won't get to 2030. 2026 will be when it changes, and it's going to change because we're going to make it damn well change. And this is what I'm saying. The talks we're having with the dairy industry, the talks we're having with dairy farmers to get them to try and find a way to get through the mire. I've got a friend who's probably talked about 20 different dairies through the mire of trying to be able to sell raw milk at the gate. Yeah. Right. And the Environment Agency are a nightmare. The environmental health, side from the councils, they're just a nightmare. And then you get the environmental agency involved because they say, oh, you've got slurry tanks and you've got to do all the bullshit in the background, right?
Yeah. The administration steps in.
Yeah. Right. But for us, we're trying to help all of them people make sure there's food on the plate. And people say, oh, well, one farmer being able to sell, 2,000 litres a day at his farm gate isn't going to resolve anything. No, I agree it isn't. But what happens if we get 100 farmers doing it?
There you go.
What if we get 100 farmers who turn around and say, actually, I could grow a couple of acres of vegetables, and that's what we're working on in the background. And people say to me, oh, Mark, it's lovely what you're doing. And they don't really know what we're doing, Nathan. And so, when I say to people, please support us with £1 a month, this is the genuine side. We've got all these things going on, and not just me. We've got hundreds of volunteers working on stuff in the background, researching stuff, putting together policies for government. All this stuff's going on in the background. And the next thing, with that radio station, that gives us the credibility, I believe. If you take, Nathan, we're going to be on 24 hours a day potentially, right? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? That gives you a hell of a lot of shows.
You're just a bit. I mean,
Right.
there's a hell of a lot of shows, but yeah.
Right. So 24 hours a day, 24 shows every day, seven lots a week. It's 175 shows a week, right? That we can cover all those different topics, all those different subjects. Yeah. We can tell people the truth. We can tell them the results we're getting. We can bring them positive news about what's going on. We can't achieve that without people's help. We need that assistance, whether that's through their volunteer time or their £1 a month. You know, don't get me wrong, people can happily pay more than £1 a month, but a minimum of £1 a month each. That is going to make such a difference, because the biggest challenge I found, Nathan, is traveling the country is there is, and now I know there's lots of people out there doing talks, and there's lots of brilliant organisations out there doing their own individual little bits.
Yeah, and there are some really good ones.
And then I got sent some details today for the post. Someone posted me a couple of checks in and posted with it some details of different CICs and charities and things, which are all in the food industry, you know, across the country that they know of, you know, in case I didn't know of them. And interestingly, out of the 8, I only knew 1. So that's great. Okay. So it gives us, but what we're doing is putting all those people in contact with each other.
Yeah.
We've got chefs in different parts of the country that are now talking to each other, nutritional chefs that didn't even know of each other. We've got all them working towards putting in programs that we can put into schools for growing food, keeping chickens, you know, cooking, whatever that might look like. We've got to put a whole system in place. This isn't just about, oh, that's where you find your food and this is a great radio station. We've got to build a new system for the truth.
Well, it's like David Icke mentioned it a couple of times, building alternative societies. And we're not building alternative societies to live alongside the tyranny. We're building alternative societies so that the tyranny goes away.
Yeah.
Effectively, but it's got to start somewhere. And I think it's a hell of a start. But can I just drop something in there?
Yeah.
About the finances? Because again, £1 a month is nothing, right? And the more that people can donate,
Cadbury's cream egg.
Well, apart from that, you get 1 Cadbury's cream egg for that, yeah. I mean, if you look at it that way, I mean, you know, sacrifice the cream egg and do something good with the money. But let's be honest here, right? This stuff costs money, right? And this is not a drive for, you know, give us all your money. I'm not trying to do that. I mean, it would be nice, but that's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is, equipment costs money, travel costs money. Petrol, you know, accommodation, things like that. We need networking costs money. All of these things, if we're going to do this, and I suspect we do it anyway, but it will be helpful. There's a lot of people out there. There's 2 types of people I've come across. There's the first kind, which is, I don't know what to do, but I want to do something. I want to help. I was one of those in 2020. I looked around and I thought, well, I know what's happening. They're doing it now. It's beginning now. And because I was already on that path of awakening and awareness anyway. It's just, that was, to me, it's just like, right now, you don't get to sit back and do nothing anymore. Now you have to get involved. Now you have to do something. And at the beginning, I didn't know what to do. So I got in touch with certain people and I said, right, your work is brilliant. You're getting the truth out there. Give me your bank details. Give me your bank details. I'm going to put 50 quid in your bank every month. And I did that to about 3 or 4 people. I subscribed to people. Whatever I could do. I did it, right? Because at that time, I didn't ever think I'd get a podcast or write a book or anything like that. I mean, that was so far out of my comfort zone. I never thought I'd ever do it.
Yeah.
So I did what I thought I could. I supported the people who were already doing something, right? And I gave what I could. I comfortably what I could. I mean, I can't do it at the minute because financials, they're restricted. But I did what I could. And I think that's, so the first group of people is, they might not have the direction. They might not have the contacts. They might not have the confidence. All right. Well, this is now your opportunity. I'm not being horrible. I'm not trying to push
I absolutely
against
agree.
people's will. But okay, well, there's people doing stuff. You know, so help us do it. If you can't afford, if you genuinely can't afford it, fine. Get involved somehow. And support. Do something for us. That, you know, this again, leafleting campaigns, things like that. Advertise for us. Put the message out on social media. The sort of the keyboard warrior thing. I mean, that is an initiative that's brilliant. There's a lot of keyboard warriors out there, but if we all united as one instead of all thousands of separate people doing their own thing in separate directions,
100%,
we're going to get way more achieved. If we got 100 people, all aiming at one. I don't want to use the word targeting because it'll trigger people. But if we did that, it's like, right, your local council's fraudulent, it's corrupt, it's doing all kinds of weird stuff that it shouldn't be doing. Right, 100 people now suddenly, we know what you're doing. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. We're not complying with this. We know what you're doing.
Yeah.
The word's spreading, and whether you try and censor us or not, the word will spread.
Yeah.
Because there's network developing.
I mean, Nathan, if you've got 100 people and you said to them, look, we've got this particular, let's use the Arla scenario last year.
Yeah.
Arla has got to the point they had so many people ringing them, emailing them and writing to them, their complete infrastructure fell over, right? That's where we need to get to with these things. And that's what I say, you know, I'm no expert on anything, right? And I include farming in that, you know, because I know a broad spectrum of everything to do with farming, but nothing about anything. You know, I can look after all animals and I can grow all crops, but I talk to some of these farmers I talk to and I'm like, Jesus, these people are like rocket scientists compared to me. You know, I've got a brief understanding. But what we've got to do is we've now got to get the people with that brief understanding on places like this radio show, hosting their own shows or coming on as a guest, talking about what they've seen in their area, talking about the bullshit, what they know is going on. You know, if you're working for some governmental department and you know is fraudulent, get on the radio, even if it's anonymously, get on there, tell people what's going on so that other people can go and investigate it, you know, and because then if someone says, like, let's say someone comes on, they say, you know, I don't know, Anglia water is, you know, tipping 10 times the amount of chlorine into the water they should be. What? Not that they are, but let's just use for an example or something, right?
Yeah.
Let's say tomorrow morning 100 people rang Anglia Water and said, listen, we're not happy about this. And 100 people emailed the local MPs and 100 people got on to, we could quickly get them to change what they're doing. And I genuinely believe that because they all crack under peer pressure, right? All of these big organisations have to rely on one thing, profits. And the minute you start to challenge that profit, they will back down every time. Supermarkets, every time they get enough people challenge them, but it's got to be painful enough for them. You know, if you want to teach a kid not to go near a fire, what's the quickest way to do them? Let them burn the bloody selves.
Yeah.
You know, we're the best one in the world. If you keep saying, oh, darling, don't do that, you burn yourself, they keep going, well, what's burn mean? Oh, ouch, that hurt, I won't do that again, right? And unfortunately, that's how government works, how big councils work, how supermarkets work. They're only going to take notice when the pain is so severe that that they can't leave the car park when they come to leave work because they're barricaded in, whatever. I'm not saying any of those things are right. I'm just saying it's the pain what makes it, you know, makes the change. And I think that people are ready to put those changes in place. They just lack the guidance. Right. And
absolutely.
For us looking at the food side of things, for me, that guidance is coming through already. You know, we're getting chefs that are coming on board. I've got chefs writing recipes to put together cookery books of old traditional cooking, right? Old style cooking. We've got people coming together that are putting together farming policies that they can then give to smallholders, people who have bought an acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres. So they can say, look, this is a pretty good manual on how to do things. If you want to grow veg, we suggest, you know, you go down the road of growing an acre of veg, you do that completely no dig. Here's how you set your beds up. Here's how you build your compost. Here's how you make your fertilizer. And we get people almost a blueprint on what to do again.
Well, it's education, isn't it? Genuine, useful skills and education, knowledge, information that they can use, that they can utilize themselves to empower themselves, to improve themselves, to improve the lives of others, their families. And this is a genuine step in the right direction. Can I give you a couple of little anecdotes? Just to, you know, I said there was two types of people when I was mentioning about the finances. The other type of person that I've come across, and I suspect you have as well, is the ones that say to you, well, you should be getting the truth out there, but you should be doing it for free. And I'll say to them, so what if we don't have an income because they've cut our income streams off? What if we're struggling for money? We're supposed to just put all of our time and effort into this, I mean, I do at the minute. I'm not making any, but equally, I don't agree with the statement that people should be doing this for free. It's a job. It's an objective. It's a mission.
That is a good point. It is a job. I'm spending 80, 100 hours a week doing this. It's a job, a full-time job. And what I'd also say is the people who would have that argument would probably still send the BBC £170 a year.
Right. This was the other part of it. Sorry to cut you off. My other part of it is, if it's such a bad thing to fund us and help us and things like that, then what about all of the institutions that you subscribe to? What about all the entertainment? What about all the smart gadgets that you're buying constantly? What about all the unnecessary treats, the unnecessary stuff like this? Just put that into just consider it. Are we asking too much that we are able to effectively make the world a better place, but we need a bit of funding behind us? Is that really a bad thing to ask for? A little bit of support? I don't think it is. I don't think it's cheeky. I don't think it's unnecessary. But whilst all these corporations are still getting richer off of the backs of us, I don't understand the logic of that. The other one is just very quickly. You mentioned about old recipes. I'm gonna say something to you, and I don't know whether you're familiar with this, but panaculty.
A what?
Panaculty.
No, never heard of it.
Whoa. Right, okay. So I mentioned this a couple of years back to just to a friend of mine, and they looked at me like you just looked at me there, and I went, "What? You serious?" It's like, "What's that?" And I thought, "Oh God, maybe it's like a family thing. Maybe it's just my nana that did it." And it's anyway. So when I went to work, I asked a couple of people there, went panaculty, and I went, "Yeah, panaculty. It's with corned beef and potatoes and onions." I went, "Right, so it's not just me making it up. So you're on about old recipes that have got lost." And anyway, the reason I bring this up is because I made panaculty for Holly and her kids the other day, and thinking, "Oh, it's a bit out of their usual sort of like food range." They absolutely loved it. They loved it, and I went, "What is you're making it up?" So when I told Holly about panaculty, she went, "Nah, you're making it up. That's just a stupid word, right?" I went, "I'm not. I'm serious. It's an actual dish that we got in Teesside. So I don't know whether it is a Teesside specific dish, but anyway,
I reckon it is."
They loved it. They really, really loved it.
We have corned beef fritters and so forth, but we would have.
That's basically it. That's basically it. But with a bit of like stock or something to flavour it, and that's it.
As we travelled about the country, some of the different things, and this is what I love about this country, and the you can see a lot of these things probably came from different people's different levels of poverty.
I suspect.
The reality, you take mining towns and places like that where they probably didn't have a great deal of cash. They knew how to make a piece of meat go a long way because they probably had one piece to last all week. They grew a bit of veg in the garden, and they grew the very basics, being potatoes, onions, maybe carrots and cabbage. So they had, down here we'd have bubble and squeak. So it would be potato with cabbage in it and fried corned beef slabs with it. That's
whatever you could put into it, right?
Yeah. And it would be whatever you had left as the winter progressed on. And I think, we live in this bullshit world now where, everything's like, available on demand. You can have raspberries 52 weeks a year, asparagus 52 weeks a year, steak 52 weeks a year. And people have got to start to understand again. We need to get back to understanding from a food point of view. And this is where the media comes into play, because unfortunately, media has advertised you can get asparagus 52 weeks a year. Week before Christmas, Tesco's advertising strawberries. Well, they're a summer fruit. Why the hell do we want them in the winter?
It's our bodies are not used to that. I mean, again, they fruit at a certain time of year because that's when our bodies require them, right? That's
absolutely
the biological need. Yes. And so we are so now out of sync with our biorhythms, with the environment around us. I mean, to me, it's nuts. And I like strawberries, but again, it does feel a bit odd eating a strawberry at winter time. It's a little bit strange.
I mean, I was a bit extravagant this morning. We went to market this morning to see my mate who's got a fruit and veg business in Bury St Edmunds, and went there this morning, and I bought lychees, and I absolutely love lychees. They are my absolute pièce de résistance sweet fruit. They are.
Really?
I love them, and they're expensive, but I don't care because I love them. right? And I don't know what time of the year they're supposed to be on season. I just love them, right? But that's where we are as a nation, and not just our nation. Every freaking nation around the world has got all this food spinning around the world. Loads going to waste because we're not eating it where we should be eating it.
Yeah.
And so something, I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, no, but I'll tell you, you know how when you're ill, mum sticks a spoonful of honey in your mouth and says, that's local honey, it's got all the great stuff, right?
Yeah.
There it is, it'll make you better. And as a kid, you take it and get on with it. Your food is exactly the same. Your locally produced food carries all the nutrients your body needs to make you well. And unfortunately, and this is one of the problems that a lot of people now have, is because there's no nutrients in the ground, the soil's dead, the food's dead, and then once you've got dead food, it doesn't matter if it's coming from your neighbour in town or the other side of the world, because your body's getting used to having dead food. It's getting, but lots and lots of people, I've had loads of nutritionists contact me in the last year, loads. And I spoke to a guy the other day from down at Somerset. He's a nutritional chef. He's now started speaking in colleges and teaching kids in schools how to cook again.
Yeah.
But from a nutritional point, so he's trying to cook with all organic, all high quality nutritional food. And he said, Mark, you wouldn't believe how difficult it is to get. And I said,
well,
I would.
I was going to say, I've tried up here to get organic stuff. You can get it, but you've got to go to different places to pick it up, and it is difficult. I mean, Teesside is horrendous for this kind of stuff. You can get it.
Well, I think what we're seeing, Nathan, is certainly what I've seen traveling the country is, one, it is out there.
Yeah.
Not on the scale we need it to be, but that's going to be, if the demand, and this is why I come back to us pushing the supermarkets, us pushing the food supply chain. And if that means I need to get from 10 people being keyboard warriors to 1,000, 10,000, whatever, so be it. Whatever that needs to be to make this change, right? And if those keyboard warriors need to go and stand outside the supermarket with a placard, whatever, let's do that. Yeah. Because they'll make the change if we force them to do so, right?
Yeah.
So
I genuinely think they would if we had the numbers behind us. They absolutely would.
And the farmers, and this is also what I come to say, a lot of farmers are, I grow wheat, barley, sugar beet, oat, maize, rape. None of that's food. That just feeds the supply chain. What you want to be growing,
basically, they fill your stomach, but they're not necessarily nutritious for you.
Not nutritional food. Right. Grow some vegetables, put some chickens on the farm, produce some eggs, get some cows, produce some milk. And this is what we need to start getting farmers now. Farmers are starting to buy into that. Is the next step. I can absolutely assure people about that. Farmers want to buy into that. What we need to do as an organisation is spend more time contacting farmers. But for me to do that, I need to be able to fundraise to be able to do that.
Right? Exactly.
Which comes back to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But as we start to get more farmers on, that will start to take care of itself. Then with the radio station, we start to push people towards the fact that they can volunteer their time on farms, that there is good quality food out there. Maybe we'll have some adverts running for where people can buy good quality food. All of these things and when we say it's food for thought radio, Nathan, it is not just about food. It's about, if you can imagine all the things what any of us conspiratorial, truth thinkers, freedom fighters, truth, whatever you want to call us, all the things we talk about are all going to be talked about on that channel.
Freely and without censorship.
Without censorship. And it's got to happen, because this is how we get the people to start putting the demands on the system to change the system. And yes, I'm all for setting up outside of the system. I'm all for breaking the system.
Yeah.
The problem is, and I say this as a point of reality, I work really closely with Advance UK, which is the newest political party out there. I'm helping them write their agricultural policy. I've been, working on that for some months. The reason I'm doing that is because I still believe there is a point for our system, right?
My argument is, if you removed it overnight, which I think we could do if we really put our minds to it, but if you remove the system instantly, you're going to be left with chaos.
You just have a vacuum.
It'll collapse. It will collapse big time. But but the outcome of that is going to be horrendous.
So my reckoning,
see where you're going with it. Yeah.
My reckoning is, if I can get a really good food structure starting to build of what we're building with farmers, with other organisations in the background, I write a policy for a party that I believe in, because they've got very clear views on certain things like I have.
Right.
If I can start putting the two of those closer together, then should they get in, and I hope they will, then a lot of the work will already be done before they get there. And that will give us the ability to change the food round as quick as that. Now, on another note, what I was going to say is, I don't know if you've seen in America what's been going on, but they've obviously flipped their food triangle upside down. So
go on then. When you say food triangle, can you explain what you mean by that? So
if you can take, for example, they had us believing that at the top of the food chain was no animal fat, grains are good for you, breakfast cereal's good for you, almond milk's good for you, and all the other bullshit they've been telling us, right? And all the things what were bad for you was all the fruit and veg at the bottom, eggs, raw milk, meat, animal fats, right? They'll tell you at the top of the triangle should definitely be seed oils. Well, this damn stuff is ridiculous, So now they've flipped it upside down in America, and they've said, right, well, hang on. What we need to be pushing is animal meats, raw milk. They passed a bill this week that all kids in school should be entitled to have milk again. Right, whole milk, not skim milk or semi-skimmed, raw whole milk. Right.
What you mean, coloured water? Because that's what it is. This
it's in this
milk,
country.
It's just white water. It's disgusting stuff. I mean, I've never liked milk, but my God, I don't know what the hell it is in the cartons these days. But it's disgusting. I won't touch it. I
love milk. So what they've done is they've flipped it upside down, and this all the stuff what we were told is bad for us is now good for us. Right now,
interesting.
It's massively interesting, apart from one thing, and here is the problem.
Here's the catch.
Here's the kicker. If you look at the companies what controlled the top of the pyramid, they also control the bottom. It doesn't matter which way up it goes.
Yeah. It's the same people doing the same tricks. They're just switching it around.
Switch it around.
I had a conversation with somebody the other day. Sorry to just interrupt really quickly about the plastic and paper bag thing, right? Apparently in the 50s, they changed from paper bags to plastic bags to save the trees. And now they've switched it the other way to save the plastics. And so now all the trees are getting chopped down again. And it's just this, it's inversion, but it's the same people behind it.
What I love is
the same control mechanism.
I don't shop in supermarkets, but imagine you do. You walk in there, right? You pick up some apples, and they come in a bag.
Yeah.
Plastic bag, right? You go and get your meat. It's in a plastic packaging. You go get your milk,
and it's excessive in some cases as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You go and get your milk, and it's in a plastic bottle.
Yeah.
Put it in your bag, right? And you get right to the end, and you go to pay for it all, and you got a whole big trolley full of stuff, and everything's packed in packaging, plastic packaging, right? And then you get to the pay to go to pay, and they want to charge you for a fucking bag to put it in.
A paper bag.
You can have all that packaging free, but now you want to carry a bag. Oh no, you got to pay for that.
Oh, wait for it. So again, I like to go to pubs, and not to drink, but I like to go on for pub meals and stuff like that. But obviously, I take my daughter with me, and she likes soft drinks and orange juice. So I'll avoid all the sweetened stuff. So I've got to go for the expensive route because everything else has got aspartame and stuff like that in. So I've got to get the ones that don't have that in. Anyway, so they'll give you a paper straw. Right, paper straw, and you'll find this in the supermarkets as well. You've got to use a paper straw to dig through a piece of foil, and it goes soggy, and that's if you can get through the foil, right? So save on the environment. Don't worry about all the plastics that your food's currently wrapped in and stored in. But as long as you're using a paper straw, which is completely fucking useless. I mean, it's just one of those things. I look at them and I just whenever somebody hands me a paper straw, I'm just like, are you for real? A paper straw, really? Oh, but honestly, it's cutting down on plastics for the environment. Really?
Do you know what, Nathan? I've got a friend who works for one of the big supermarkets, right? And he was a store manager. He's now way up the supply chain. And during lockdown, they couldn't get any carrier bags with their logo on.
All right? Okay.
So they had to buy plain white carrier bags.
Yeah.
And sure enough, inside a couple of months, things started to get back to normal. Carrier bags started to flow. And every one of their branches, 4,000 branches across the country, had 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 6 pallet loads of white carrier bags.
Interesting, right? Okay.
They all got dumped.
Oh, I'm sure that's good for the environment then.
Oh, there you go. And
it's sustainable wastage, right?
Have you got any use for any carrier bags? I said, why is that? He said, I said, well, they got your logo on. He said, no, these are plain white carrier bags. I said, I'll have as many as I can get. And I picked up 4 pallet loads at 6 foot high ago, right? It took me 2 days to move them all, right? And I sold them all to my friends on the markets and people who had farm shops at £5 a box. Now, normally they're like £25 a box. So they were delighted. They were giving me 5 quids and, you know, they were happy as Larry, and which was great. But you think to yourself, you're prepared to put all that pallet loads of stuff into landfill. What? Because it hasn't got your logo on it. Really? What? And this is what we're up against. They do not care. These organisations don't care about anything to do with the environment. Right. It's just about the profits. They don't care about the goodness of the food. They don't care about our thoughts, feelings. You know, it's all about lip service. And, you know, I said, here's another classic one, right? Last week, some of the farmers were on strike and they were going out on strike. You know, they were going out, picketing outside the distribution centres for the supermarkets. And Tesco's a classic example. I'll use them because I know this is what store it was.
Mate, right? I've got no love for Tesco. You carry on.
Tesco's in Cambridge had a sign in. They've got all the empty shelves, so all the fruit and veg was empty. And they got a sign there, basically said, due to farmers protesting at our distribution centres, we can't deliver you any food. Right?
What does that tell you?
Now, I spoke to this friend of mine who works for a supermarket chain at a very high level, and I said, oh, you must be pissed off about that. And he laughed. And I said, what are you laughing at, you twat? I said, you know, you've got all these tractors outside your distribution centres, you know, blockading everything. And he said, that's made no difference to our business whatsoever. Nothing. I said, well, why haven't you got any stock on the shelves? And he said, because we're holding it back to make the farmers look bad.
Perceived scarcity to create panic and chaos and to rise the prices again.
And there you go. And he said to me, by his own admission, they had put cauliflowers up from £1.09 to £1.99 because they only had 20 boxes for the shop rather than 100 boxes. And I said, hang on, what? He said, yeah. He said, we've got the others in the store. He said, but we just don't put them out. And so that's what farmers are up against.
Yeah, but then look at the double standards involved in just that. So what happens to the food that they're trying to create a scarcity concern over? What happens to it when it doesn't sell? It's going to go. It's going out. It's going to go to nobody. It's going to go into a landfill. Where's the sustainability in that exactly?
Well, do you know they don't? What they do? So I don't know if you know this. I only know this because I used to run a CIC that collected all the food waste from supermarkets. What happens is, here's a bit of an education for you. People go, that can't be right, Mark, but I can assure you, unless things have changed, this is right. So if I walk into a supermarket and there is, as a charity collecting that food waste, right?
Yeah.
And there is a trolley there which is full of bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to sign to say I've taken that as the CIC charity,
Yeah.
And the supermarket may have marked that down to 10p a loaf. Right?
Mm-hmm.
From £1.50, they might have gone, it's 10, 15p a loaf.
Yeah.
If they now donate that to a charity, they claim back against tax the full retail price of the item. They don't give a fuck what they give away. It makes no difference. If they give away 10% of their stuff, it writes off their tax bill.
Well, it is a massive. It's the whole thing. It's a corporate scam. Let's call it for what it is. It's a massive corporate scam, and the backers of the scams are the politicians and the public servants and the. I'm going to be very careful. I'll say this: investment corporations, round table groups, and things like that. I mean, this is how clever they are. They've got every avenue covered, but only for them. And if you try and play their game, but you're not in their club, they've got ways of hammering you so that you can't compete. You mentioned to me, sorry to interrupt. You mentioned to me the other day about I think it was abattoirs in the United States, and so I think you said there was 5 companies that
four.
Are you all right discussing?
Yeah. So just give people an idea on this. So we all know how big America is, right? America, vast in comparison to our tiny little island, right? Yeah. We're not as big as one state, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
There is now 4 companies that between them own 30 abattoirs, and those 30 abattoirs kill 85% of all the meat what goes through the American food system.
So can we just try and just for the audience, just take a moment to reflect on that? Just
now, I don't know how many miles it is across, let's say Texas, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Texas has 1 abattoir for dealing with beef, right?
Insane, though, isn't it?
And you think it's the biggest meat producing state in the country, right? But then if you've only got 30 across 50 states, that means you've got one, more or less, 1 abattoir per 2 states. Now, some of these states might be, I don't know, 500 miles across. So you're traveling potentially up to 500 to 1,000 miles to take animals to an abattoir because all the local abattoirs are closed.
Right, but how do you travel, right? Is that not petrochemicals that are trying to tell us about and all of that? That's fuel costs, that's electricity, that's employment, that's time. All of that builds up. I mean, it's genius in a way. It's evil genius, but anyway, sorry, carry on because there's more to this.
And it's so I've been in talks with a lass who's out in America who's set up a thing called the Ranchers Alliance, and what they're doing is they've bought an abattoir. I think it was Tyson's closed down. They wanted £4 billion for it, and they had to buy this. 4 billion they had to raise,
which is insane.
And they're now setting up abattoirs, smaller abattoirs, and so forth. So all across America, all these ranchers. And just to give you an idea, Nathan, I know we talk about the amount of farms we've lost in the UK.
Yeah.
In the 80s, there was 6 million ranchers in America. Just ranchers, right? 6 million. There's now 700,000.
Which is a hell of a drop.
Nearly 10% left out of, let's say it's about 12% of what was there is now left after 50 years, 60 years, right? They'll only go one more generation, they'll be wiped them out unless things change. And this girl, she's brilliant. And she's working on the fact that she's got all these ranchers to form an alliance, all inside a CIC, have to say like we have. And they've got the meat going into the abattoirs, into their own abattoirs, through their own pack house.
It's all right. You're still there. I saw that. Are you still with us? Right. We seem to have lost Bowler Hat Farmer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to cut the video here. See if we can get him back. Oh, we're back. There we go.
Sorry, mate. It dropped out.
I saw you go out and then you came back. I was going to say, I'm going to cut the video here. If we take a 10-minute break, are you all right to come back on and we'll do a part 2?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Because then, so I can get this one backed up, and then, if you like, we can go question time. How about that?
No worries.
Sorry, do you want to finish that just before we cut off? I want you to finish what you were saying there because I found that fascinating. So
so what she's done is she's set up. They've got all the ranchers together. That meat's going through their own abattoirs. That's going through their own pack houses, and they've now got their own retailers on board, and already. Right, the Tysons of the world and the different meat producers are already going to those retailers and saying, if you stock that stuff, you will not stock anything ever again from us. And they won't last 2 minutes, so you'll never ever sell meat again. And that's the bullying what's already going on. And I just wish them all the luck in the world. And they've gone down a slightly different road to what we have. But they're delivering the same thing as we are, putting good food on the plate, but they're delivering it in a slightly different way. And that's what we've now got to do. We've got to make the decisions country to country. How are we going to fight back against this food situation?
Yeah. Well, again, mate, it's global, isn't it? Let's be honest. This is global. Whatever is affecting the USA is affecting us, is affecting Australia, Thailand, Nigeria, Somalia. Take all of these examples. Doesn't matter because we're all linked anyway. We're all human. We're all in this together. God, I hate to say that after 20.
We are all in this together.
But what you've just said there, this is the tactic, isn't it? This is how they get their agendas in place. It's industrial sabotage, it's threat, bullying, coercion. Those things are, I would say, unfair advantages. It's what George Carlin would say. It's a big club and you're not in it, right? So
absolutely.
So all right, let's create our own big club then, because we don't like their club anyway. Their club is corrupt and it's rotten from the inside out.
Absolutely.
So, all right. We are up against the Wolves, but equally, if we don't do something, well, so David Icke, I'm going to end this segment on a David Icke quote. I don't know whether it's his personally or whether he's quoting it from somebody else, but it goes like this: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Yep.
In other words, if we keep going around in the same circles, right, we're gonna keep ending up in the same places, which is bad for us and good for the ones that are profiting from us, the ones that are let's say the policymakers.
Yeah,
they're the only ones that are ever going to benefit from this. The rest of us, collectively, the whole of human society worldwide suffers. The whole of the planet suffers, and we need that planet because without it, we're stuffed. We need the trees, we need the fields, we need the animals, we need all of these things. We need the infrastructure that goes with it. We need to operate within the confines of that and work with it, not against it. Use it, not destroy it.
Yeah.
Replant it, not clear it. All of these things. This is what people tend to forget. It's a close knit infrastructure. It's a biome. We are symbiotic. We rely on everything else, and if one part of it collapses, we all suffer.
Oh yeah, we can't live without all of it in place. We know that. That's called nature.
Yeah, and I love it, and I think you do, and I think anybody that people go on holiday to nature reserves, to places where it's tropical, where they can go into a forest reserve and things like this. They do that because they miss that connection. They lack it. They want it back, and it's been taken from us. Which is 100%. Why I'm so adamant that we've got to stop destroying the planet just as much as we've got to stop ripping ourselves apart as a society. Yeah. Right, mate. I'm gonna stop it there. If you're all right to come back on.
Yeah. What are we gonna do? Another half an hour or what?
Yeah, we'll do another half hour. We'll do a couple of questions, and then we'll pause it there until the next one.
Am I coming back in on the same link?
I'll send you a new one because as soon as I stop it, it'll start
that's what
transferring it basically. So I'll send you a new link. 10-15 minutes.
Yeah. All right, mate. No worries. See you then.
Cheers. Speak to you in a bit.